Hey everyone, it's me Varlo. As many of you know, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and by extension, a fan of the Battlefront video game franchise. I was elated to find out that a collection of both original Battlefront games would be coming to modern platforms. I actually wasn't planning on making a video about this game at all, considering they're both 20-year-old video games, but I was shocked to see the overwhelming negative response these games have been getting online. I wanted to give both games in the collection a fair shot and let you know whether or not the Battlefront Classic Collection is worth your time and money. The issues that I was hearing were mostly consistent between all the accounts that I saw. I saw a lot of complaints about not being able to connect to lobbies online, specifically the game crashing when joining. I also saw many complaints about the exorbitant file size and price. While $30 is somewhat cheap for game standards, it's a lot to ask for when buying two games that are 20 years old and have been barely updated. I also think it's mind-blowing that the game is 62 gigabytes when the originals were much smaller. It appeared the larger file size was because of some upscaled visuals, but the game only looks slightly better than its previous PC counterparts, so I don't have much to say about that. The biggest issue that I saw was when the game launched, there were only 3 dedicated servers, which obviously couldn't handle the 10,000 people who played the game when it dropped. Fortunately for me, I was asleep during this initial server rush, so I didn't experience any of that, but people are totally justified in being mad that the developers let that happen at all. I spent roughly an hour on both Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. I wanted to stay under 2 hours altogether so I would still fall under Steam's refund policy should I have wanted a refund for the game. I spent all of the time I've had with the game in the online modes. Firstly, I wanted to do this because the online modes were where I saw the majority of people were having their issues. Secondly, I think that my time was better spent checking out the online modes since the single player experience has been unchanged pretty much. I haven't seen anything circulating about there being any problems in the single player except for some missing cutscenes. Battlefront 1 is a game that I'm familiar with, just less so than its sequel. I had a really fun time playing it, and it's an incredibly different game than its sequels because of how different it plays. There's no playable hero units in it, which is a staple that was introduced in the sequel. It also controls different because there's no sprinting and you can go prone. It's a very interesting and fun experience. I actually had no issues with it at all. I was able to connect to games easily using the quick join feature and wasn't booted out a single time. It was so nostalgic being able to see that iconic loading screen once more. I really do feel like Battlefront 1 is a game that a lot of people gloss over, but it truly is a good time. This isn't a game that I had in my Steam library already, so I'm happy to have it now, able to experience whenever I want. Unfortunately, I didn't have as good of an experience with Battlefront 2. Right off the bat, I was hit with multiple issues connecting to servers. My first issue was that no matter what I did, the quick join button told me that there were no lobbies for me to join. I didn't know if I was doing anything wrong, so I just left it and tried joining games through the actual server browser. Upon joining one of Aspire's dedicated servers, I was met with multiple full game crashes. I also had issues in between games. I had many games where after one match ended, I lost connection before being able to partake in a new game in the same lobby. This is a problem because every time I joined a new server, I was able to play for about 2 minutes until the match ended, and I was sent back in lost connection hell once more. This somewhat ties into one of my other big problems with Battlefront 2 in the Classic Collection. I tried out the 64-player lobbies during my time playing and realized a big flaw with the gameplay. In Conquest, the main game mode of Battlefront 2, I found that the games were way too short. One of the ways to win in Conquest is to eliminate a certain number of enemy players. The problem here is now that the lobbies have much more people in them, this number of enemy players defeated is reached far quicker than in smaller lobbies. Basically, this means that every single game of Conquest is over in a maximum of 3 minutes. It's actually kinda pitiful. The developers need to raise the amount of lives each team has because the game should be drawn out much more. Thankfully, it wasn't all bad with Battlefront 2. The gameplay is still intact with some extra content to boot. Hero Assault is now able to be played on many different maps in the game as opposed to just Mos Eisley. This is a great addition and I had a great time playing it. I also liked playing as the new heroes Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress. I know these characters were already available on the Xbox version of the game, but I never got a chance to play that, so this has all been pretty new and cool for me. I also think the menus for the game are a huge improvement over the god-awful menus that were in the original PC release of the game. Battlefront 2 is a really great game, and once they fix the server issues and make some minor gameplay tweaks, I think this will be the definitive way to play it. Now we've reached the part of the video where I address the big Star Destroyer-sized elephant in the room. Should you buy Battlefront Classic Collection? Well, it's quite a complicated answer. If you're playing on the PlayStation or on Nintendo Switch, I'd say this is a complete no-brainer. These are games that will hopefully get fixed and weren't already available on these systems. On the other hand, if you're on Xbox or PC, I don't know if I would suggest buying them. These games are both already available individually on these platforms for a cheaper price separately than in the collection. I have no doubt that Aspyr will iron out the problems in the collection, but until then, I don't think I could really recommend it for people on these platforms. My advice would be to just get the original versions or to wait for the inevitable sale. Goddamn, man. No matter who makes it or what happens, my beloved Battlefront doesn't ever get a break.